Hey folks, Dr. Joe Esposito here. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day. You're going to get mad at me today. I'm going to tell you right up front, you're not going to be happy with me. I'm going to do a show today on bread and why bread may not be the best thing you're eating, and not the banned bread. I know I felt old the other day. I was talking to one of my producers, and he said, "What's your show going to be on?" I said, "I'm going to talk about bread." And I said, not the band, ha ha ha. And he looked at me like a dog at a whistle, like, huh? I said, there was a banned bread back in the 70s, 80s, real gushy, romantic stuff. Nope, knew nothing about it. So I did feel old. So we're not talking about David Gates and Company. That was the lead singer for Bread, in case you don't know that. We're going to talk about breads and cookies and cakes and donuts and pastas and wheat and what goes on in your body when you put these things in your body. Now, one thing that goes on is you get happy, because I like bread, and you probably like bread too. And people say that's one of the hardest things to give up. I know when I went vegan 33 years plus ago, somewhere along there, butter was hard for me to give up, and scallops. Those are the two things I had to do some soul searching with. The meat wasn't a big issue. The dairy, most dairy except for butter and scallops. And now time has passed, and of course I don't crave those things anymore, but there's plenty of substitutes out there. Now, I'm not saying they're healthy choices. They're just better choices. And that's the difference, is just because something is not bad doesn't mean it's good. People like the butter substitute. Still a lot of fat. It's processed. It's not a whole food. So it may not be the best thing for you, but it's a whole lot better than eating the animal products. And if you're going to do the animal products, you know what I say? What do I say? Always do organic. If you're going to do any animal products, organic only, or don't eat them. But I digress. And bread was easy. Bread wasn't something I had to give up because there was vegan bread out there, bread without any animal products in it. And so as time went on, I started to realize that I didn't feel good. My nose always ran. And so even after I went vegan, I always had a runny nose. I always had phlegm in my throat. Couldn't figure it out. So one day I woke up and I didn't have a runny nose and my throat felt clear. And I thought, this is weird. So I thought it was a fluke. And then I woke up the next day, felt good too. So I did what even back then I was telling my patients to do, is write down everything you eat and see how you feel. So I started writing down everything I eat, and I realized something, that I hadn't had any wheat in a long time, several days, and I was feeling really good. So as an Italian, I was scared to test this. So I said, all right, I'm going to try this. So I went a couple more days without wheat, felt great. Then one day I said, I'm going to have some wheat. So I had some spaghetti and bread and whatever else, I don't remember, all wheat products. And the next morning, sure enough, nose running, phlegm in the throat, coughing, trouble breathing. And I went, no, say it ain't so. Say it ain't that I can't eat wheat. So I did an experiment a few more times, and every time results were exactly the same. And I went, I don't want to play. So that's when I wrote my first book called Eating Right for the Health of It. And the first half of the book tells you how to change your diet. And the second half of the book was recipes, still there. We still print it. And people want to know, what do you eat? And so that's the big question I get. So what can I eat? So I wrote that book with that in mind. And it's tons of recipes in there. Everything is vegan. Everything is gluten-free. Everything is soy-free. So really good book. First half of the book is content. The second half, like I said, is just ideas on how to eat. So we're going to talk about bread today. Back to my point here. Now, for most of us, it's one of the most comforting foods there is. And maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I like bread. You think about it, biscuits, baguettes, croissants, even a simple slice of toast with some butter on it. Sounds good, doesn't it? Sounds good to me. And growing up in Hoboken, New Jersey, there was a lot of brick oven bakeries there. And they'd bake the bread fresh right there in the oven. And you'd go there early in the morning, and we'd go to Ralph's Candy Store on Willow Avenue in Hoboken, and we'd get the rolls. They had the Kaiser rolls with the poppy seeds on them. Oh, we'd bring them home still warm, put butter on them. Heaven. Oh, by the way, little tidbit on bread. When I came to when I moved south to go to college, I realized you couldn't get good bread. So I said to my grandmother, who of course was alive at the time, and I said, Grandma, I can't get good bread down south. And she said, Giuseppe, it's the altitude. I said, what? The altitude. The altitude. Because where I went to school right around Atlanta was 900 feet above sea level. And where I grew up, New York, New Jersey area, was sea level. So the best breads are always baked at sea level. And it's the altitude. It's the air pressure. So that's a little useless fact for you there. But anyway, I just love bread. Always loved bread, I should say. Smell of it. I mean, who doesn't like that? And now, if you read the Bible, in fact, I did a show on this, and somebody called the station and said I'm a heathen and not a man of God because I talk bad about bread in the Bible. I thought, it's kind of stretching it that I don't like bread, and now I'm a heathen. I think, it's a little stretching it there, but that's what you guys are out there for, to critique everything we say. The Bible says, "Give us this day our daily bread." So the government puts it on a food pyramid, so it must be good. But here's the thing, before you jump to accusing me of going to hell here. The bread they talked about in the Bible is not the bread we're eating today, especially in the United States. The bread they talked about then probably wasn't even wheat. It was probably spelt, which was a grain that was popular at the time in that area. Wheat really wasn't. So probably didn't even exist. So it's a spelt bread, not a wheat bread, and spelt has a little less gluten in it. And then recently, in the past several decades, we in the United States have hybridized our wheat. We realized that if we splice certain plants together and they have certain genetic qualities, you can get more production or more productivity per acre, and it was easier to grow. So why wouldn't we genetically modify it, or not genetically modify it, splice it and hybridize it? And because of that, we've created bread that is a different structure than even I had when I was a kid. Depends how old you are. So a lot of people say it's there, it's in the Bible, just like the wine in the Bible. It's not the same wine that we're drinking today. It was watered down fermented grape juice. So did it have alcohol in it? Probably, but it certainly wasn't nearly what we're drinking today, according to scholars, people much brighter than me. So I don't agree. I don't agree wheat should be part of our daily bread. I don't believe wheat should be part of our food pyramid. And it's not a good thing. In fact, the average American consumes about 55 pounds of wheat every year. So refined flour is the number one source of calories in the American diet. So gluten-free bread, that's your next. I know what you're thinking. You think you're smarter than me, but you ain't. Because I know what you're thinking. Well, Dr. Joe, I'll eat gluten-free bread. That's a big buzzword right now, gluten-free. It's bad for different reasons, and I'll cover that in a little bit. So can you really still eat bread and maintain your body weight and maintain your health? Let's answer that pressing question. You got to be concerned, and you're going to be surprised when I go over what's in wheat, aside from the fact that it just is a lot of sugar, because the flour is basically sugar. So what happens is you take a wheat kernel and you take off the bran. That's the fiber. Then you remove something called the germ, because the germ is where the nutrients are, the vitamin E is. And the reason we do that is because when you remove the germ, you're taking away the fat, and so it doesn't go rancid, it has a longer shelf life. So what's left is called the endosperm, and that's essentially sugar. That's pretty much pure sugar. I'm going to cover that in a second. And so that's what you're eating. So any nutritional value has been stripped. However, we're going to talk about whole wheat in a second and talk about why it's higher in other things that are bad for you. So we can make it white flour. We remove some of the bad stuff and some of the good stuff. If we leave the whole thing in, vice versa. So we leave the good stuff in, but there's also some bad stuff we leave in too. So the truth about bread is there's nothing essential about eating breads or whole grains. The fact is, it's really one of the most unhealthy things that we eat. So if you read the grocery store labels, you read the newspaper, you're familiar with the message that whole grains got to be healthy and you need to eat more of them. Not true. And there are certain grains that would be better choices than others. I'm giving you a lot of teases today. In a business, we call that a tease. Why don't you hang on and not change channel? Now, you probably heard the word high glycemic index. What that does is that's a food that raises your blood sugar, and when blood sugar goes up, your body releases insulin, and insulin goes to the cells, opens up the cells, and allows sugar to come in. And that's how insulin works. So the more sugar you have, the more insulin your body releases. Well, over time, if you release too much insulin, the cells are just being bombarded by insulin, trying to open them up and get sugar in, and the cells say, stop it. I can't take any more sugar. Because if you throw more sugar in there, you're going to kind of gunk up the works. So now the cells become insulin resistant. They start to resist the insulin from having the effect on them. And then the blood sugar doesn't come out of the blood, it stays in the blood, sugar stays high. And we call that type 2 diabetes. Now we got a problem. So what we need to do is cut out the sugar, let the cells not see insulin for a while, and they'll get lonely. And they'll say, insulin, I miss you. Where have you been? And then the cells will allow insulin to kind of like a key, open them up and allow the sugar to come in, and then you'll start lowering your blood sugar again. And that's why a lot of type 2 diabetics can control their diabetes and many times eliminate their diabetes with proper diet. Now, don't stop doing what your doctor told you. If you're taking insulin, you're taking medications, whatever, keep taking those medications. But then as we change your diet, we allow the cells to become more sensitive to insulin, and then hopefully you won't need the medication. Patients come to us all the time. My team of doctors say, Dr. Joe or Dr. whoever, Dr. Gail, Dr. Kat, Dr. Irwin, Dr. Dave, Dr. Terry, don't want to leave anybody out. I want to come off my medication. And we always say, we can't do that. We're chiropractors. I'm board certified in chiropractic, orthopedics, pain management, double board certified in nutrition, BS in nutrition, retired dietitian, award-winning author. This show is heard coast to coast and around the world. As far as I know, it's the #1 health radio talk show in the country. And so we can't tell you to stop taking medications. That's your medical doctor's job. But if we can get you healthy enough, then hopefully you won't need the medication. Follow that? And I'll tell people, listen, when you start coming in for chiropractic care, nutritional work, monitor your blood pressure. It might go too low if you're on high blood pressure medication. And then you either got to give us up or give up the medication. And all the doctors I know, every medical orthopedist, neurologist, neurosurgeon, general practitioner, they love that. And they send us patients all the time. Dr. Joe, I need your team of doctors to see if we can get this person healthy so that we can get them off their meds. I don't know of any doctor who wants to keep you on meds if they're not necessary. And sometimes they are necessary. So I'm not saying stop taking them. I'm saying let's get you healthy. So the high glycemic index, the food shoot up, the sugar shoots up. When this happens, the insulin spikes, this triggers inflammatory reaction that increases your risk of cancer, Alzheimer's, heart disease, fatty liver, and diabetes. So there's your sugar spike. High insulin levels promote the storage of visceral fat, which surrounds the organs and sends metabolic messages to promote disease. And it gives you that belly fat. That's where the belly fat comes from. Dr. Joe, I can't get rid of my belly fat. Got to cut out the sugar. And sugar, we're talking today, is grains, specifically wheat. High blood sugar also causes something called advanced glycation end products, AGEs. Advanced glycation end products do exactly that. They age you. The sugar binds to protein, creates these AGEs, and it actually causes things like tissue damage and wrinkles. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't want to look old, I'd strongly advise you cut out your sugar. According to research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, if you eat 2 slices of whole wheat bread, it spikes your blood sugar about the same as drinking a can of soda or eating a candy bar, about 6 teaspoons of sugar. Now, a can of soda usually has 8 teaspoons of sugar, so I'm not sure why they said that. But anyway, it's a lot of sugar. So eating 2 pieces of bread, you think, well, that's fine. I wouldn't eat a candy bar. That's bad, but I'll eat 2 pieces of bread. Essentially the same thing. So we got to cut out these sugars. And 75% of the carbohydrates in wheat are in the form of something called amylopectin A. This is a new word you've never heard before. Amylopectin A. It's a compound that's unique in just how rapidly it transforms into glucose. And glucose is the form of sugar that the cells use. So it's not just like eating regular carbohydrates. This amylopectin A really converts into sugar fast. That's why your wheat spikes your blood sugar higher than almost all foods, even when the same number of carbohydrates are consumed. So not all carbohydrates are the same. That's where the problem comes in. And also you want to make sure you're eating fiber with your carbohydrates. Because in a perfect world, and this is hard to do, I'm going to be honest with you, you want to do about 40 grams of carbs a day, 40 grams of net carbs. What the heck's a net carb? You take the amount of fiber that you eat, so let's assume you're eating, 100 grams of fiber a day, minus the amount of carbohydrates you eat. Okay, so let's assume you're eating 40 grams of, the other way around, I'm sorry. Carbohydrates minus fiber. So you eat 100 grams of carbohydrates minus 40 grams of fiber, that's 60 net carbs. Did you follow that? So carbohydrates minus fiber is net carbs. And so the fiber pushes the food through your colon and gives you a slow release of sugar. That's why you want to eat whole foods. Not the store, the food. Something that's as unadulterated as you possibly can make it. The way it's picked from nature. And of course, that would be a plant-based diet, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. And there's tons of research out there that prove this. In fact, I met a fellow named T. Colin Campbell the other day. I was at a seminar. I got invited to a VIP reception. And he wrote a book called The China Study, and basically he says the plant-based people do very well, and they live a lot longer. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. And wheat is not something that's usually consumed in places like China. It's processed. A study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association showed that people with high levels of small, dense, low-density lipoproteins have about 300% greater risk of heart attack. So what does that have to do with anything? A lot of doctors believe the number one risk of heart disease in the United States, low-density lipoproteins, and medical establishment has exaggerated the role of cholesterol in the diet. Now, sugar can increase your cholesterol levels or affect your cholesterol levels, but a lot of research now is saying maybe we've been a little too aggressive with our cholesterol. Maybe the cholesterol shouldn't be as low as we're making it, because your body needs cholesterol. Because cholesterol produces hormones. It covers your nerves. It's called a myelin sheath. So cholesterol is necessary. So there's also a trend now going toward maybe we messed up, and maybe it's okay to raise the cholesterol just a little higher. Okay? But this heart healthy whole wheat can lead to problems because it can affect your cholesterol levels. Now, folks, if you want to come see us, we have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and Stockbridge. We would love the opportunity to become your doctors. Now, again, we're a team of chiropractors, and we work with chiropractic, nutrition, digestive issues. So if you'd like to make an appointment to come see us, go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe, number one Dr. Joe in the world, and we will set you up a time to come see us. Now, we accept people with all insurances, no insurances, car accidents, sports injuries. We want to be your doctor. And we'll do what it takes to help you get well and stay well if you're willing to work with us. Car accidents. I've never seen a car accident ever in 33 years of practice where the car was damaged where the occupants weren't. So if you were ever in a car accident, whether it was yesterday or 50 years ago, chances are there's damage to your body and your spine, and it needs to be fixed. So if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, get off your fanny, go to the website, drjoeesposito.com, and make an appointment. Because every day patients come in and say, Doc, I've been following you for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I've been following your work. I've been following your research. I've been attending your lectures, listening to your shows, and I've been meaning to come in. Well, if you're that person, mean to come in now. So go to the website, drjoeesposito.com, and we'll get you set up as soon as possible. So we're talking today about bread and why it's not the best thing for you. So what triggers dangerous compounds like low-density lipoproteins to form more than any other food? Actually, it's the amylopectin A found in wheat. So it's the type of carbohydrate we find in wheat that's giving you the problems. Now think about that next time you see the seal of approval on a package of whole grain wheat. The wheat has amylopectin A. Amylopectin A, it converts into the sugar very quickly. The sugar can get into your liver, cause fatty liver, raise your insulin levels. Wow. And you never even heard of amylopectin A. And now you have. See, you learn something new every time you tune in here. So a lot of people will eat wheat not every day, but actually every meal. How many people do that? Raise your hands. I know a lot of you. So I'm going to give you a challenge. My challenge is this. I want you to give up all your wheat, all the breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, and pastas for a week. We can do a week. Come on. Give it up for a week. And then I want you to start eating it again. See how you feel. If I'm wrong, if you don't feel better when you give it up and worse when you start eating it, I was wrong. I blew it. But if I'm right, which I am, you'll say, wow, this is going to be tough. I can't give up my bagels and my breads and my cookies and my cakes, my donuts, my pastas, my sandwiches, my hamburger buns. I know it's tough. Is it worth it? Absolutely. When you do it, you'll see what I mean. And if you want to go back to your old ways, it's your call. Can't make you stay that way. But I promise you, you're going to be very, very happy with that decision. Now let's talk about the addictive properties of wheat. You've probably heard that sugar triggers the pleasure centers in your brain, the same ones that drugs do. Okay? They release dopamine. They get the opioid receptor sites excited. And that's what happens when you're eating these sugars. And so when these sugars get into the brain, they release these pleasure centers and you get high. And when you get high, what do? You want to eat more. And it's interesting, too. There's a study here, and I'm not sure I'm going to buy this study here. It was published in the Psychosomatic Medicine Journal, the Journal of Psychosomatic Medicine, and it showed people who ate wheat consumed an average of 400 more calories a day. Now, I'm not sure that eating the wheat makes you eat more calories, or if people that just don't eat a good diet, Maybe people that don't eat wheat eat a better diet, so they're going to eat less calories. But either way, sugar and wheat is definitely one of the things that are going to pack on the pounds. Excuse me. But if you replace your foods with the grain-based foods with commercial gluten-free counterparts, a lot of people say, I'm going to eat gluten-free bread or gluten-free cookies. That may not be the best choice either. So you see a lot of gluten-free breads and cookies and pastas and crackers and cereals. They use ingredients that are not much better than wheat for different reasons. Gluten-free wouldn't have the amylopectin A, wouldn't have the gliadin, but it does have other things too. So in place of wheat flour, a lot of gluten-free products will replace the wheat with cornstarch, rice flour, potato starch, tapioca starch, millet. So if you avoid glutens, you got a problem. Now, there's different types of glutens, and that's something a lot of people don't realize. There's gluten in a lot of the corn has gluten, but it's not the gluten. It's not the wheat gluten. So gluten in wheat contains two components, gliadin and glutenin. And gliadin and glutenin, when they get into your body, cause problems. So just because the word says gluten, and now they say gluten-free, it still has other types of glutens. It's kind of like a misnomer, but it's the wheat that's the problem. But a lot of the starches they use in the gluten-free products are among the few foods that increase your blood sugar even worse or higher than whole wheat. This means these foods can trigger things like weight gain in the abdomen. That's the belly fat. And that's why things like beer, which is made with what? Barley, rye, hops. Barley and rye have gluten in them, by the way, the type of gluten, the bad kind of gluten. So it can increase abdominal weight, increase your blood sugar, insulin resistance, diabetes, cataracts, arthritis. This is something else too. A lot of people come to me and say, Dr. Joe, I'm getting old and I don't know what to do. I'm getting cataracts. My vision is starting to go. I understand that. And the reason I understand that is I have a condition called macular degeneration. I was told about 5-6 years ago, I have macular degeneration. It's really bad, and chances are I'm just going to go blind. Now, I didn't like that diagnosis. So I thought, okay, what do I do? Well, the doctor said you can take zeaxanthin and lutein, which are antioxidants, and that should help. So I said, it's got to be something better than that. So I created Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source, which are loaded with antioxidants. And since then, my macular degeneration has improved by about 60%. That's about 5 years. Now, the doctor said it can't improve. There's nothing you can do to improvement. You can only hope to slow it down and maybe stop it, but it'll never get better. Mine is getting better. And the doctors, every doctor that's ever seen pictures of my eyes say, we've never seen this before. No one has ever gotten better from macular degeneration. The reason is I don't eat the 7 deadly sins, alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener. I get chiropractic care on a regular basis. Chiropractic care opens up the nerve and blood supply to my eyes. By pinching nerves, you're also pinching blood vessels. And I take Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source. It's one of the bazillion reasons why you should be taking Super Greens and Essential Source. Bazillion, real number, right? I made that. I don't know. I don't think it is. But anyway, if you want to get it, and I think you should, they're on my website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe. A lot of other supplements are there, too. We have vitamin D supplements. We have supplements to help circulation. We have supplements to help build the immune system, supplements if you do get sick, what I take when I do get sick, supplements to clean out your colon. So the website's a great source of information, and that's available 24 hours a day, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe. If you're not willing to do anything else, at least get on the Super Greens, the Essential Source. And if you are on the path of getting well, this is really going to push you forward. And it's also available on Amazon, too, if you have an Amazon account. My books are also available on my website and on Amazon. We archive well over 1,000 hours of radio shows. We have our blog there, and you can watch that as well, my podcast, if you will. So the website's a great source of information, articles I've written, and if you have any questions, send them to me through the website. I'm more than happy to answer your questions for you. So get a website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe, #1 Dr. Joe in the world. They're also available on Amazon. And if you want to make an appointment to come see us, and I think you should, I think you've been suffering needlessly long enough, I think you should go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, and make an appointment. You can do it right online. You can call us if you want. We accept people with all insurances. We accept everyone. If you're willing to get well, and we can work and we can make arrangements for you, we will. Now, again, we're not a free clinic, of course, but if you're serious about wanting to get well, go to my website, make an appointment. If you're not ready to get well, that's okay too. Don't make an appointment. We want patients who are serious about making a commitment to get well and stay well. We'll work on your nervous system, your digestive system, your diet, and we'll do what we can to get you back to normal. So again, the website, drjoeesposito.com. If you've ever been in a car accident, if the car was damaged, you were damaged. Same thing with sports injuries. We're seeing now all these football injuries and hockey injuries. These guys get hit. You think that must have hurt. It's showing long-term damage. Get it fixed before it gets worse. drjoeesposito.com. Hey, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. Hey, folks. Thanks for being here. I am Dr. Joe Esposito. We're talking today about wheat and why wheat specifically really is something you want to consider taking out of your diet. And it's not just the wheat that you're thinking about. You know, it's high in sugar, it's high in gluten. There's a lot of other issues with wheat that you really need to pay attention to. And usually when I give this lecture, people will say, I never thought about that. I do have chronic back pain or knee pain, or I've got headaches, or I've got joint pain, or I've got indigestion or gas or bloating. And they cut out the wheat, and a lot of times that's the secret. The other secret thing you want to give up, there's three things you really want to give up. Wheat, dairy products, and artificial sweetener. Those are the three biggies. If you have to pick out things to give up, give those up. So a lot of doctors mistakenly believe that a lot of the problems with wheat comes from gluten. So in other words, you don't have a problem with gluten. If you don't have a problem with gluten, you don't have a problem. Well, that's not true. Gluten is kind of a generic term. It consists of hundreds of little tiny small compounds, and any one of those can trigger inflammation and an immune response. And that's not even a fraction of the whole story. According to a study published in Plant Physiology, I bet you have that magazine in your house right now, right? Plant Physiology, perhaps in the bathroom. Modern wheat is capable of producing 23,788 unique proteins. So what happens is your stomach's job is to take proteins and break them into amino acids. And amino acids go into your small intestine where they get absorbed, and then they get sent to the liver, and the liver says, okay, you're going to become eye tissue, and you're going to become muscle, and you're going to become toenail, and you're going to become hair. And so the amino acids are then reassembled and become body parts, which is great. It's a normal process. However, when you put a protein in the body that it can't recognize, it's called a foreign protein, the immune system looks at it and goes, you know, I don't know what that is. So I better attack it before it causes damage to my host, you. And so the immune system can attack it, and normally the immune system attacks it and you don't even know what's happening. But sometimes the immune system goes crazy, it goes awry, and it can start attacking yourself. And when the immune system starts attacking the self, it's called an autoimmune condition. And sometimes it shows up as rheumatoid arthritis, sometimes it shows up as a thyroid condition, sometimes it shows up as colitis. So when the immune system starts attacking itself, we've got issues. And one way to calm down or stabilize the immune system is cut out these foreign proteins, and wheat being one of the big ones. And that would explain the studies where people have shown to have severe reaction to wheat and no reaction to gluten itself, even in high doses. So the wheat has other things aside from, if you take pure gluten, people may not have a reaction, but they can have a problem with the wheat. So there's basically two antibodies that are related to gluten, and the doctors test for it, and if you don't come up positive for that, they say, it's all in your head. Don't worry about it. But science has found numerous compounds in grains, aside from gluten, that can be related to long-term problems. So it's also the wheat that, it's a powerful chemical in the wheat that protects it from being eaten. But you got to realize this, that plants don't have any way to get up and run away. So what plants do in nature, they'll produce things that prevent you from, or cause problems when you eat it so that you don't keep eating it. So that's a kind of a plant defense mechanism, like cactuses have little spikes on them. Well, that's one thing, but sometimes it's chemical. Wheats and grains have these defenses, and it can really deprive yourself of a lot of vital nutrients if you're eating them, and it can slowly leak out toxins into your gut, and that's called a leaky gut syndrome. One of these chemicals, aside from gluten, is called wheat germ agglutinin. You've probably another word you've never heard of, amylopectin A, wheat germ agglutinin. Studies show that wheat germ agglutinin can have a direct effect on most tissues in the body, including the heart and the brain. And in fact, it enters the brain so easily that what scientists are doing is they hope they can use it as a delivery system for Alzheimer's drugs. So they can attach the Alzheimer drug to this wheat germ agglutinin and let it get absorbed directly into the brain. Because the brain has something around it called the blood-brain barrier, and it protects the brain from toxins getting in there. So sometimes the medications, if you're giving somebody a medication, is considered a toxin, and it doesn't pass the blood-brain barrier. So if we can disguise it or get it to hitchhike a ride on something like wheat germ agglutinin, it gets right into the blood, into the brain. Problem is, that alone can cause issues with the brain. So like gluten, wheat germ agglutinin can disrupt your hormonal system, weaken your immunity, cause digestive problems, promote systemic inflammation, which is the whole body becoming inflamed. And the highest concentrations of this wheat germ agglutinin are found in the whole grain, including supposedly these healthy sprouted grains. So if you're eating plain old white bread that's been all this stripped down of all the good stuff, so to speak, well, you're not going to get as much wheat germ agglutinin. Got a lot of other bad things. Take the whole grain, you're increasing your wheat germ agglutinin, which is what I said earlier. See, if you pay attention, all these things come back at you. So what you don't know can still hurt you. Studies show that even if you don't have a gluten intolerance, a lot of foods can cause inflammation, and they create these little tears in the gut. And these little tears in the gut create an opening from your digestive system into your blood system, and it's called leaky gut syndrome. About 30 years ago, I was talking about leaky gut syndrome, and it was like unheard of. What is this weird voodoo leaky gut syndrome thing? Now, it's mainstream. In fact, just the other day, I was talking to one of my colleagues at the station, and she said she was diagnosed with some colon issues. And she said, the doctor has me on some medications, but she also has me on, and I love this, prescription strength probiotics. And I said, really? And I said, that's really progressive, that medicine has come to the point where they realize that, drugs don't cure everything. And if you take antibiotics, you can kill off the good bacteria in your colon. And I've done plenty of shows on how the bacteria affects your brain function, your immune system. And she said, yeah, that's the new trend now. So once again, I smiled and I put that in the Dr. Joe was right column. Because once again, Dr. Joe is right. That you need to have good bacteria, and now medicine is finally catching up to us. Medicine is so far ahead of we holistic practitioners in many, many areas. And I humble myself to my medical doctors when I need medical advice, when I need medical treatment for my patients. And it's nice that now it's gone full circle and the doctors are coming back to us. And in fact, major universities come to me and my staff all the time. Will you come teach here? Will you help us set up a wellness program? Will you be on podcasts with us? 20 years ago, chiropractors and medical doctors living together in harmony? Unheard of. Now, it's commonplace. And in fact, they're coming to us. Because I've always gone to the medical profession. If I have a medical issue, I talk to a medical doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. But now they're coming to say, you know what? We can't fix a lot of things. You can, so can you take care of those patients for us? So it's like the dawning of the age of Aquarius, where cats and dogs will live together in harmony. And I hope it stays. I really do. Because everybody has their place in the healthcare system. And I like to do conservative treatments first, chiropractic care, nutrition. Maybe you might have acid reflux or heartburn. We need to massage the stomach down away from the diaphragm. And if that doesn't work, then we can add more aggressive techniques like medications. And if that doesn't work, we can get more aggressive and do surgeries. But I get referrals all the time. The other day, I got a referral from a neurosurgeon friend of mine. He says, you know what? You don't need neurosurgery. Go see Joe first. See if he can help you. If he can't help you, then we can always cut your brain open. And I thought, you go, boy. And it happens all the time. I just love getting referrals like that. Anyway, I digress. You might not feel the slightest gurgle in your belly, but 50% of newly diagnosed celiac patients have no noticeable abdominal distress. Now, celiac is a disease where gluten really triggers you. And 50% of the people that have it have no abdominal distress. They don't have the gas and the bloating and the cramping. Pretty cool stuff. So every time you take a bite, it's causing damage to nearly every tissue in your body if you have these reactions and you don't even know it. So this can set the stage for a lot of different diseases. And some of the symptoms you might have, aside from digestive problems: headaches and fatigue, chronic sinus issues, lowered immunity, arthritis, joint pain, bone pain, nutrient deficiencies, long list of skin conditions. I cannot tell you how many patients come to us with skin problems, and they have rashes, and they can call it whatever they call it, dermatitis, or they have a bunch of them. Can't think of all the ones that I've seen over the past couple of weeks. And I tell them, I said, listen, I know you've done the prednisone, I know you've done the creams, and I'm fine with you doing that from a medical standpoint, but try this. Let's give up the two foods that cause the most skin reactions. That would be wheat and dairy products. So 0 wheat, 0 dairy, not a bite, 0. And let's see what happens. And almost inevitably, I can't think of any case where it didn't happen, they come back and they say, wow, look at my skin, doc. My eczema is so much better. My psoriasis is getting better. So let's see if we can fix it from a chemical standpoint. And a lot of people are thrilled. Babies, a lot of times babies come in and they have a weak immune system already. And they're given, maybe the mother gave them milk, a milk-based formula. Get them off that. And sometimes soy will do it too. Get them off that, get them on some good foods, and not inevitably, but almost inevitably, the body starts to heal. Journal of the American Medical Association published a report showing that gluten-sensitive people who still consume grains increase their risk of death by 75%. That's a high risk of death. New England Journal of Medicine lists 55 conditions that can be caused by eating gluten. Some of them include cancer, heart disease, osteoporosis, irritable bowel, inflammatory bowel disease, fibromyalgia. Thought I could do it in one breath. Thyroid disease, anemia, epilepsy, canker sores, lupus. Had a patient call the other day, one of my listeners, and she said, Dr. Joe, she called me a few weeks ago, I got a lot of canker sores in my mouth. I said, stop biting your fingernails. She said, okay. Called me a few weeks later, said, I stopped biting my fingernails. I still have canker sores. I said, let's give up the wheat and the dairy. Let's see what happens. And that was just a couple of days ago. So let's see if it works. And also, by eating a lot of bread, it can adversely affect your brain. Not a good. There's a book written called Grain Damage. I thought that was kind of a cute title. More than 50 years ago, doctors discovered that some mental patients had spontaneous recoveries when bread was not available to them. So it's the term bread madness. It's kind of interesting. Doctors at Duke University reported a woman who had a 50-year history of delusions, hallucinations, and suicide attempts. Within a week of stopping wheat, her symptoms started to disappear. Wow. So why don't you do this? And I got a lot more to cover, don't worry, but I'm going to give you my challenge again because I got to keep hitting you with challenges. Why don't you do this? Why don't you stop eating wheat for a week, maybe 10 days. Give it 10 days. Let's go crazy. So that's breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pasta, soups, stews, gravy, salad dressings. Be careful. Read the ingredients. It's everywhere. See what happens. See what happens if you give up the wheat. And let's see if that's something that we can then leave out of our lives and see if you feel better. If I'm wrong, so what? I'm wrong. But if I'm right, which I am, then you're going to consider doing this for hopefully the rest of your life. And I think you'll be really happy with that. So modern wheat is different than the wheat we talked about earlier that was, from the Bible. There's about 700 million tons of wheat cultivated worldwide. It's the second most produced grain in the world, second only to what? Corn. I thought it was going to be soy. It's actually corn. It's grown on more land than any other commercial crop, and it's considered a staple food for a lot of people. But in the United States, it's different. Some point in history, the ancient grain was nutritious in a lot of respects, but modern wheat isn't the wheat that we're used to. Once big business took over to develop high-yielding crops, wheat became hybridized to the extent that it became completely transformed from its prehistoric genetic configurations. So remember that. It's not the same stuff that your grandparents ate. It's a big difference. So there's a Dr. Davis. He wrote a book, Dr. William Davis. He's an expert in this field. And it's an interesting book that he wrote. He called it Wheat Belly. And a lot of good information in there. Now, some doctors may argue back and forth, but the bottom line is this. Do it for yourself and see if it works. And if it does work, I want you to do it forever. And if it doesn't work, so what? I was wrong. There's no downside to you experimenting on yourself to give this up. Because as a chiropractor, patients come to us all the time, and a lot of them are chronic pain or acute pain. And they say, Dr. Joe, or my team of doctors, what can we do? What can we do? And even if we give you the best chiropractic care in the world, and I like to think we do that. I have no proof of that statement, but I like to think my doctors are the best. We then do a nutritional workup because we want you to get well, and we want you to do the things that you need to do to get well. And part of that is you have to take some responsibility for your own health care. Some people come in and say, I want you to do everything for me. All right? We'll do everything we can. Other folks say, Doc, I'm willing to do anything you tell me to get well. And those are the patients I like. Because we sit down, we do a nutritional consultation. And by the way, we can do a nutritional consultation over the phone because I know this show is heard around the world. We can always do it on Skype. We can do it on the phone. And a lot of people call in and say, Dr. Joe, I want you guys to do a workup with me to find out what I need to do. And in most cases, I can't think of any I didn't ever, I recommend Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source. And the reason is they're powders. It's the minimum amount of nutrients your body needs to get well. And the Essential Source is about 10 servings of raw fruits and vegetables, prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes, complete multivitamin, tons of good nutrients. And I start every day with it. People say, what do you eat for breakfast, Dr. Joe? Dr. Joe's Super Greens, Dr. Joe's Essential Source, and usually like a piece of fruit. Lunch, well, lunch is almost always a salad or something along that line. I usually get hungry around 10, 11 o'clock, and if I get hungry, I get shaky. I don't actually get hunger pangs, but I get shaky. So what I do then is I'll have a couple of handfuls of nuts in my drawer at my office. I have different types of nuts, almonds, walnuts, pecans, pistachios, and I'll have a few nuts. Salad is one of my meals every day, and sometimes a salad's my snack. And then dinner kind of varies. But if you go to my website and you sign up for my newsletter, I'm going to send you a link to a lecture that I did called So What Can I Eat? And it covers what you can eat. It's a whole hour of just what you can eat. And that's all there. And if you need books to follow, Eating Right for the Health of It is my first book. A lot of recipes in there. Everything is gluten-free, of course. Everything is wheat-free, dairy-free, soy-free. And my second book, if you haven't read this one, it's a really good one. It's called Prescription for Extreme Health. And if you like the radio shows and you like what you hear, you probably want to read that book as well. Now, folks, if you're listening and you like what you hear and you want to make an appointment to come see us, we would be honored if you gave us the opportunity to find out if you have something we think we can help. So if you want to make an appointment, we have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and Stockbridge. Go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe, and we will set you up a time to come in. We accept people with all insurances, no insurances, car accidents, sports injuries. It'll probably be the best decision you've ever made when it comes to healthcare. Certainly one of the best decisions you've ever made when it comes to healthcare. And our patients just love getting well. And we love helping you get well. So if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you're ready to get well, only if you're ready. If you're not ready, don't make an appointment. Go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, and just Google Dr. Joe, and we'll set you up a time to come see us. And we're excited to see you come in and bring your family, bring your friends. Kids need to get checked. Because if kids are out of place, they grow crooked. If they're straight, they grow straight. We want that opportunity to get the world healthy. And believe me, with this generation, it's scary what's happening to these kids. I couldn't imagine a better opportunity to get well than getting on a good diet and getting chiropractic care. So go to my website, make an appointment right now, drjoeesposito.com, and just Google Dr. Joe. You can do it online. You can call us. I've never seen a car accident where the car was damaged where the occupants weren't, ever. So don't kid yourself. Well, I wasn't hurt. I'm fine. No, you get checked. If you're fine, you're right. We'll send you home. But you're not going to be fine if the car was damaged. So we're going to continue talking today more about wheat. And the wheat today isn't the wheat that your grandmother had. It's an 18-inch tall plant created by genetic research from the 60s and the 70s. This thing that has a lot of new features that nobody told you about, such as there's a new protein called gliadin. So in wheat gluten, there's something called gliadin. It's not really gluten, because gluten is found in a lot of things. It's kind of a branch of that. Now, I'm not addressing people with gluten sensitivities and celiac here. I'm talking about everyone else, because everyone has some susceptibility to gliadin protein that is an opioid. It's an opiate. It stimulates the pleasure centers in your brain. This thing binds to the opiate receptor sites in your brain, and most people, it stimulates hunger, which can make you eat more, which explains why if I do have a piece of bread, haven't had one in a long time, I want to eat more. It stimulates my pleasure centers. I want more. So if this was just a few people having a good reaction to giving up the wheat, that'd be great. But when we start seeing the studies out there and people come to us and they say, Doc, I gave up the wheat and it helps with my diabetes. It helps my arthritis pain. It helps me lose weight. My legs were swollen. I had irritable bowel syndrome, depression, on and on and on. It's something I really want you to consider. So you want to avoid these wheat-oriented products. If you want to do that, I suggest you eat something called real food. And what would that be? Fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. Everything I've been teaching you for the past 35 years. Avocados, olives. If you're going to use olive oil in small amounts, again, it's a processed food. Even though it's good, it's a processed food, so limit that. Vegetables. And again, if you don't know what to eat, go to my website. You can sign up for my newsletter. It's free. And we'll send you a link called So What Can I Eat? And my first book, Eating Right for the Health of It, describes it really clearly. 90% of the grains we eat are wheat. They're not the flax seeds and the other good things that are. And again, grains are actually seeds. It's a kind of a fine line. What is a grain? What is a seed? We just kind of call, like corn, we call it a grain. It's really a seed. But don't worry about it. Don't get caught up on the semantics. So a lot of health experts who continue to promote the benefits of wheat oftentimes are shocked when they hear shows like this and they go, wow, I never thought of it like that before. And I really appreciate, by the way, if you're a healthcare professional, I do appreciate you first tuning in. And second of all, being open-minded to say, let me rediscover what I thought I knew. Let me investigate what Dr. Joe is saying and let me see if it's right or wrong. And inevitably, they come back and say, Dr. Joe, you were right. I remember I gave a speech one time to a nutrition department at Emory University in Atlanta. And dietitians were there. And I was talking about nutrition. There was one guy, he was just, he did not like me. Big fella, too. And he said, you know what you're talking about? Dairy products are good for you. It's well documented. It's in the government research. And I said, all right, here's my challenge to you. Go out and research dairy with an unbiased spin. Look at it and see what you find. And if I'm wrong, I'll come back and I'll apologize. And about 3 weeks later, I got a phone call. He says, Dr. Esposito, this is such and such. I remember his name. He says, remember I was the guy yelling at you? I said, I remember you. You were big. I got scared. And he said, I have to admit something. He said, I was wrong. I mean, he said this. He said, I was so bent on the fact that dairy was good for me, I started doing the research to prove how wrong you were. And everywhere I turned, I started realizing that a lot of people have reactions to dairy. It has proteins called casein, similar reaction to gluten in the body, and gliadins. And so they said, I'm sorry. And I want to thank you for what you taught me because I now can help all my patients for the rest of my career. So I was wrong and I apologized. And I said, apology accepted. Thank you for being man enough to realize that. Because every now and then, somebody will get a little upset when I talk about wheat, or if I talk about pesticides, or if I talk about meat or something. And, you know what you're talking about. And I said, I'll gladly discuss it with you. I've got all the research. Let's have a meeting. And then they start researching and go, oh, he was right. Darn it. I don't like that at all. So what happens is, as we talked about, we extract wheat is processed into what's called a 60% extraction. It's bleached white flour. 60% extraction, that means that most of the wheat products, 40% of the original grain is removed. And so not only are they unhealthier, they're modified, they're hybridized, we also remove a lot of the nutrients like the bran and the germ. And that's where you're going to get the things like the vitamin B1, B2, B3, the vitamin E, the folic acid, the calcium, the phosphorus, the zinc, the copper, the iron, fiber, of course. It's lost. And you can only get fiber from plants. And that's why when you eat a whole food, I want you to eat the whole food, not like orange juice. Orange juice, high in sugar. Whole orange has fiber, slowly pushes this food through the colon and gives you a slow release of the sugar. And so if you're going to eat fruit, about 3 or 4 pieces a day is probably all you need. I'd recommend that you eat the whole thing and not just the juice. If you're going to juice, vegetables are great to juice because vegetables have a cell wall called cellulose. And we need an enzyme called cellulase to break down the cellulose. And we don't produce cellulase as humans. And so we have to either chew it really good to physically burst open the cell walls of our vegetables, cook it, which the heat then causes the water to expand and burst the cells. But when you cook it, you destroy some of the nutrients, or you can juice it. And so if you're going to juice, a lot of vegetables, very little fruit. That's the key there. And we talked earlier about wheat germ agglutinin. It's largely responsible for a lot of the wheat's problems with digestive issues and health issues, and it's kind of hard to diagnose. Research is now discovering that wheat germ agglutinin in modern wheat is very different from ancient strains. Not only does it kind of throw a monkey wrench into the works that we're doing, but due to the fact that wheat germ agglutinin is found in the highest concentration in whole wheat, that's where the problem comes in, because that's supposedly a superior form. And then the sprouted wheat also has a high form as well, high amount as well. And that kind of pulls the rug out from the health industry when they're saying eat the whole grains. So we're kind of in a pickle here. So the question then everyone asks is there a good bread? And the answer is, I wish I could say yes. Because as an Italian, I miss my bread. But this is what's going to happen, because it happens to everybody. You start eating whole foods, and you start realizing how good you feel. And you start realizing how you're losing weight, and you have more energy. And people say, you're looking younger. Did you do something? Did you have facial surgery? Did you have injections to get your wrinkles out? The body really responds so positively to a whole food diet, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. If you have pinched nerves, neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, numbness, tingling, chances are you have a pinched nerve that can easily be fixed, not every case, by putting the bones and the muscles back in place. If you have acid reflux, we may have to massage your stomach, pull it down away from the diaphragm so that the stomach can now digest food more efficiently and help prevent things like leaky gut syndrome and allergic reactions. So if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, go to my website, listen to hundreds of hours of radio shows, drjoeesposito.com, and at least get Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source. Those are the 2 nutrients almost everyone should take. And those are on my website. They're also on Amazon. If you have an account there, you can get them there. And if you want to make an appointment to come see us, we have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and Stockbridge. Go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, and we will be more than happy to set you up an appointment. If you're ready to get well. If you're not ready to get well, don't make an appointment yet. We want people who are serious. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. So if you're ready to get well, drjoeesposito.com. We accept people with all insurances, no insurances, car accidents, sports injuries. We want to be your doctors. Hey, folks, thanks for listening. Tell your friends about the show. We'll catch you next time.